Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Anna, and in today's class, we are going to be focusing on a very important muscle, the gluteus medius, which is a muscle on the outer hip that not only works to stabilize the hip, but also to abduct it or move it away from midline. So we are going to get started on our back today. And you can start with your feet on the floor and your knees bent. And we're going to start by pushing those lower back ribs down into the floor, lengthening the tailbone, and then lifting the hips for a low bridge. Now take your hands right onto your outer thighs, your outer hips, and give a little bit of pressure, a little bit of resistance here as we begin to move the legs out and in. And that can be a really small movement, but we're just starting to wake up the outer hip, gluteus medius. Just give it a little heat. And oftentimes just having this feedback of the hands on the muscle can be really, really helpful in starting to bring some more attention and awareness there. Let's do about 5 more of these. You can start to make your breath a little bit bigger. All right, and then we're gonna hold that bridge, reach your arms straight up like you're holding a tray, and we'll start to stretch out the wrist so the right hand can pull the left fingers back. And just reaching that left thumb out to the side as well. And then we'll switch hands. The left hand pulls the right fingers back, and that right thumb can stretch out to the side. Awesome. Now let your arms come down. We're going to super slowly lower the spine. And then interlace your hands behind your head, cup your skull, and we'll set up for some abs. So elbows hug in toward your temples. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, lift up off your shoulder blades. Now feel the sides of your ribs wrap in, and then your front ribs hold down toward the floor. That's it. Inhale, lower back down. Exhale, come up off your shoulder blades. Reach your right leg straight out from the knee joint so your knees are in line. Now take your left hand to your left outer hip and then resist the hand into the outer thigh into the hand. And just feel a little bit more work there in your pelvis. Foot comes down, hand behind your head, inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up off the shoulder blades. Left leg reaches straight out from the knee joint. Right hand pushes into that outer right thigh and then resist. Hand into thigh, thigh into hand. See if you can't get up a little bit more. Hand comes behind your head, foot comes down. Inhale to lower. Adding on here. Exhale, lift up. Right leg reaches straight out. Left hand pushes into the left outer thigh. Resist. And then you can lift the left heel up, pushing down into the left big toe mound. Heel comes down, hand behind your head. Foot comes down. Inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up. Left leg reaches. Right hand to the right outer thigh. Maybe you lift that right heel up. Perfect. Heel comes down, hand behind your head, foot comes down, inhale to lower. One more. Exhale, lift up. Right leg reaches. Left hand to the outer thigh. Resist the 2. And then push into that left big toe mound. Maybe you lift the heel. Heel comes down, right foot comes down, inhale, lower. Last one, here we go. Exhale, lift up. Left leg reaches. Right hand to the outer thigh, resist. Push into that right big toe mound. You can lift the heel, hold those front ribs down. And then heel lowers, hand behind your head, foot lowers, and release. So let's come around into a quadruped or tabletop position. So we're gonna do a fun, kind of funky little move here. Starting with your right forearm, lowering down so that it is parallel with the front of your mat. And then your left hand lands underneath your shoulder and hug this left elbow in a bit. Now pick up your lower front ribs and we're gonna take the left knee out to the left slightly. Lower the left knee back down, modified side plank on the left hand, right leg reaches back, the foot can be on the floor. Good. And now hug this bottom, this left outer hip in, so we're keeping this left hip centered in the joint. Lower the right knee, lower the right forearm parallel to the front, left leg moves out to the left a bit, back down, modified side plank. Hug that left outer hip in, hug that left shoulder blade onto your back. Lower the right knee, right forearm lowers, left leg moves out to the left a little bit, and down, modified side plank. One more here. Left leg out, hug that right outer hip in so it's not dipping out to the side. Modified side plank. And come back down. Switching sides. Left forearm lowers parallel to the front, right hand is under the shoulder, elbow hugs in. Now right leg moves out to the right just a little bit. Knee comes down, modified side plank. Hug that right outer hip in, so we're holding space in that right hip. Left knee lowers, left forearm lowers. Little fire hydrant move, right leg out to the right. Modified side plank. Feel that right outer hip working there to stabilize you. Left forearm lowers, right leg out. Let's do two more. Feel that right shoulder blade suction cup onto your back in that modified side plank. Last one. All right, now we're gonna lower our forearms for dolphin, so you can interlace your hands or have your forearms parallel. I'm gonna go ahead and interlace my hands here. Lift your lower front ribs up, tuck your toes, pike your hips up. So let your head relax. You can bend your knees as much as you need to. So holding the front ribs in, we're gonna take the right leg out to the right a little bit without lifting it and back in. Left leg out to the left a little bit. Good. So it's like a little metronome. And feel that that gluteus medius is working on the leg that's moving out, but it's also working on the opposite leg to stabilize and to hold that hip steady. Let's do a couple more. Make your breath a little bit bigger to support that. Beautiful. And then you can lower the knees down. And then when you're ready, coming all the way up to stand at the front. So you can always have your blocks handy if you like them for down dog or anything else like that. Whew, feeling it already. Let's take an inhale, bring your arms up. Exhale, hinge and forward fold. Plant the hand, the right foot back, lower the knee, come onto the top of the foot. And then bring your hands to either side of your pelvis and compress either side of the pelvis in, and then feel a lifting up of your pelvic organs. Bring your hands down to the floor. Left foot back, downward facing dog. Right leg reaches up, inhale. Exhale, step that right foot as far forward as you can. Lower the left knee, come onto the top of the foot, and bring your hands to either side of the pelvis again. Feel that compression side to side hugging in, and then that lifting up, pelvic floor into your core, reaching that energy all the way up through the crown of the head. Hands come down, blocks or floor, slide the back foot up. Inhale, rise to stand. Reach your arms. Exhale, hinge and fold. Plant your hands, left foot steps back, lower the knee but not the toes this time. You can have the hands on the pelvis to start. And now imagine you were gonna drag your right heel and your left knee towards each other. So there's more of this feeling of kind of like upward lift. You can bring your arms up toward the ceiling if you want. Take a big full breath there. Good. And then we'll plant the hands. We're gonna move to the long edge of the mat, parallel your feet for some side lunges. So going side to side. You can have the fingers in the hip creases, sitting those thighs back. Especially if you're feeling anything in your knees, go back into the hips more. Holding those lower front ribs up. Beautiful. And then we're gonna turn to face the back of the mat, downward facing dog, left leg reaches up. So hold the front ribs up, feel this right outer hip hugging in to stabilize. And then your left leg moves out to the left just a little bit without changing anything else. Bring it back in, and then step this left foot forward about 3/4 of the way. Bent knee, standing L. So the right leg reaches back. You got it. Now take your right outer hip, or your right leg, and move it out to the right a little bit. Bring it back in. Right foot steps down. 3-legged down dog, left leg reaches up. Take it out to the left a little bit. Abducting this left hip. Bring it back in. Step it about 3/4 of the way forward. Bent knee, standing L. Right leg reaches up. Move your right leg out to the right a little bit. Oh yeah, that goes right into it. Last time, left leg reaches up. Move it out to the left a little bit. Back in. Step it forward. A little break is coming. Right leg up. Sit back into that left hip crease more. Right leg moves out to the right a little bit. And then seated twist, turning to the long edge of the mat. The right leg comes behind the left. We get a little release here. So you can always stretch your bottom right leg straight out if that feels a little bit better on that hip. But we're gonna take the left fingers to the floor, reach your right arm up, and then lift up and over. Letting that right hip be nice and heavy. Nice, that's it. Now we're gonna lift up, unwrap to the right, turning to face the front of the mat, standing on that right foot. Lift your left hip up in flexion. Nice. Now you can take 2 fingers into this right outer hip and just give like a little prod to that gluteus medius. Like, hey little buddy, I need ya. So hug that outer hip in. Feel that working to stabilize this leg. And then we're gonna take this into a supported warrior 3. So sit back into your right hip. Left hand lands on top of your right thigh. Gorgeous. Push down into that right big toe mound. Nice. Now we're gonna rise up to stand again. Left hip in flexion. You can give a little poke to that right outer hip. You got this. And then sit back into that right hip. Supported warrior 3. Let's do this one more time. You're doing amazing. This is hard work, but worth it. Lift that left hip in flexion, right outer hip. Come on, buddy. My right side always needs a little more love. And then take that back, supported warrior 3. Hold it for a breath. And then we're gonna take this to the back of the mat for a revolved low lunge. So land the left toes, windmill up and around to the back. Right hand can land on a blocker on the floor. You're on your back toes. And then lean back into this right shoulder blade. And maybe you take your left arm up. Firm your right glute, stabilizing the pelvis. Breathe into that left side of your waist. Now we're gonna come back into our move that we started with. So let's lower the right knee, modified side plank. Left leg reaches back. So the foot can be on the floor or lifted, but we're hugging this right outer hip in. So we're holding the space in the right hip. And then lower the left knee. Left forearm lowers parallel to the top of the mat. Right leg moves out to the right a little bit. Lower it back down. Modified side plank. That left foot can be on the floor or lifted. Keep going there. Noticing that knee on the floor working to stabilize, while the leg that moves out to the side, right, also working in that abduction. Let's do one more. And then we're going to end modified side plank. Looking down at your right hand, step your left foot up in line with it and open to the long edge of your mat for a goddess squat. So your hips are going to be externally rotated, so turned out a little bit. And if that feels a little bit weird, you can always straighten your legs, turn your toes out as much as it feels good, and lower back down into it. All right, so they do not need to be turned out a lot. Good. And then feel the front ribs are being held in, tailbone is lengthened down. We'll just do some little pulses here. Last two. And then we'll turn to face the front. Step your feet together. Got one more side. Feeling a little sweaty. Let's take an inhale, bring your arms up. Exhale, hinge and fold. And the right foot back, lower the knee but not the toes. So coming up into our 90-90 low lunge. Now imagine isometrically dragging your left heel and your right knee towards each other and feeling this upward lift in the pelvis, all the way up through the spine. You can take your arms up, take a big full breath. And then we're going to take this into our side lunges facing the long edge of the mat, so you can parallel your feet, and then we sit back into the hip. Switching between sides, back into the hip, instead of letting that knee drive forward. Feeling the lower front ribs lift up into the back ribs. Now we're going to turn to face the back of the mat, downward facing dog with your right leg lifted. So here, feel your left outer hip hug in. So that gluteus medius actively holding, it's isometrically engaging. And then the right leg abduct, so it goes out to the right a little bit. Come back through center. Step the right foot about 3/4 of the way up. Bent knee, standing split. Left leg lifts up. Now take your left leg out to the left a little bit. Come back through center. Left foot lowers. Right leg reaches up. 3-legged down dog. Right leg goes out to the right a little bit. Back in. Step it forward. Now that right outer hip actively stabilizing here. Left leg up. And then that left outer hip is working as you take that leg out to the left. And back in. Let's do that one more time. Right leg up, 3-legged down dog. Take it out to the right a little bit. Back in. Step the right foot forward. Go back into that right hip crease, left leg reaches. And take that left leg out to the left a little bit. Come back in. Now seated twist, left leg comes behind the right as you turn to face the long edge of the mat. Option to kick that bottom left leg straight out in front of you. And we just get a nice little stretch for all this work we're doing in the hip. So right hand can come down to the floor, left arm reaches up, and then keep this left hip heavy as you lift up and reach over. Nice. And lifting back up here, we're going to unwind to our left, all the way around to face the front of the mat, so we're standing on the left foot with the right knee in flexion. Now you can take 2 fingers and kind of poke into that left outer hip, just giving that glute med just a little more love, a little more feedback. Now we're going to take this into our bent knee warrior three. So sit back into your left hip crease. Right leg reaches back. Right hand can land on top of your left thigh. Good. Push into that left big toe mound. Rise up to stand. Right leg in flexion. And sit back into that left hip crease. Holding the front ribs in. Right? It is good to wobble. It's good to shake. Let it happen. Last time here. Sit back into that left hip. Okay. Hold your supported warrior three here. And then we're going to take this to the back of the mat, revolved low lunge. So land the right toes, windmill up and around to the back. Left hand lands either on a block or on the floor. Hug that left shoulder blade onto your back as you turn your ribs to the right. Firm that left glute, helping to stabilize that pelvis. Nice little stretch for that right outer hip there. Now taking this into our modified side plank, lower the left knee directly under your hip. The right leg reaches back. That foot can be on the floor or lifted. Feel the left outer hip hug in, so we're holding space in that left hip. Lower the right knee down. The right forearm lands parallel to the front of the mat. Left knee goes out to the left a little bit. Bring it back in. Modified side plank. Foot can be on the floor or not. Lower the right knee. Right forearm lowers. Left leg goes out a bit. Keep going there. Just about 3 more. Feel that leg going out to the left. Working with that gluteus medius to lift it while the opposite leg is working to stabilize. Last time we're going to hold this modified side plank and then look down at your left hand. Step the right foot up in line with it. Turn to the left for a goddess squat. So the hips are rolled open a little bit. The feet are turned out at whatever angle feels best for you. You can have your hands on your thighs here if you like. And we'll just do some little pulses up and down. Feel like we're holding the pubic bone up, holding the ribs in. Now we'll turn to face the front of the mat and lower down to your knees, quadruped. And if it feels okay for your hips, you can roll the thighs in so the lower legs move out. So this is internal rotation in the hips. And go into a couple rounds of a cat and cow. If that doesn't feel good on your hips, you can just have your legs straight. And when you're ready there, we're going to make our way down onto our backs. And then take your feet wide on the mat with your knees bent. You can bring your arms out into a goalpost. And just gently start to rock your legs from side to side. So aiming to keep the heaviness of your sacrum down on the floor. And when you're ready, we'll make our way into Shavasana. So if that means your knees stay bent, your feet stay on the floor, or you stretch your legs out. Just finding any other position that feels comfortable and restful for you. There's absolutely no right or wrong. Just take a moment to lean into your strength. Lean into your own inherent power, which doesn't come from showing up and doing everything quote unquote right or perfect or without wobbles. But it's about showing up with curiosity about the ways in which we can move with more clarity, more strength, therefore more grace and more ease. And so knowing that wherever you are today, however you feel, that you have that strength, have that power, you have that capability. And letting yourself now just rest into that. Slowly begin to deepen your breath. You can start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And eventually making your way up to a comfortable seat. All right. Amazing job today. That was a spicy one. I am proud of you. I know it is challenging work, but it is worth it to feel that clarity and that strength in our hips that just makes everything feel a little bit more graceful and a little bit easier. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.